What's going on? Oh, baby. What's really going on? Oh, babe. What's going on? Oh, baby.
Study abroad. The phrase captures the imagination and suggests adventure and new discoveries in lands away from home. For college students who want to expand their educational horizons, studying in another country offers new experiences, new friends, opens doors to other cultures, and even opens one's mind to viewing the world in newer and different ways. Rhonda Waller, director of MTSU Education Abroad and Student Exchange, wanted to be a teacher. After studying abroad as a student in England and teaching English in Japan for 3 years, she changed her career path from teaching to helping college students discover study abroad opportunities of their own. Waller says she can go on and on talking about the advantages of a study abroad experience.
I know it's a cliche, but it did change my life. It was an amazing opportunity for me. I was studying to be a teacher at the time, and it really opened up my world to new possibilities. And I actually changed my career course as a result of study abroad.
So, where are students headed this year as they seek new educational experiences beyond our shores? And what do they think are the advantages of expanding their college classroom to other countries?
I would actually like to go to Greece. It's somewhere I've always wanted to go. I've been to Germany and I've been to Berlin and other places, and Greece is just somewhere I've always wanted to go.
I went with 5 other students, only one of which was from MTSU. I had no idea who any of them were before we got on a plane together. And when we went to Changsha, which is where the university is at that we studied, we got to meet a ton of people. Everybody was really nice. They all wanted to speak English with us. They all loved the fact that we were American and we were there, which was really helpful because I didn't speak a word of Chinese.
It was an amazing experience, and with Moscow, they're really much like New York. It's very it's like industrialized, but also a very big city and very fast paced, and just the experience of going to the university in Moscow and having the lectures and meetings with the professors over our subject and learning the actual business of how it runs in Russia was amazing.
Some areas of the world have traditionally been off limits for study and travel, either for political reasons or because of turmoil and unrest. Students and faculty alike are working to generate interest in study abroad in such areas as Egypt and other parts of the Middle East, a region of the world that has often been cast in a negative light.
This is going to be the first program in this part of the world. So I'm trying to diversify the offerings that we have here at MTSU. The students will travel in June, and they will stay in Alexandria, a Mediterranean coastal city in Egypt. But there will be many cultural sites visits to Cairo, Rosetta, where the Rosetta Stone was discovered, as well as many other smaller villages and interesting places.
Oh, there's a lot of benefits, especially with the Middle East, because it's an area that, it's obviously important in the political realm. It's very important. The relationship between the U.S. and the Middle East is something that's very important, and people with experience in that matter and that have been there, they're going to be in high demand, and people want students that have that experience.
After several years of being closed to students, Cuba has again opened its doors for study abroad opportunities. MTSU is already at work on a trip to Cuba this summer.
We have an undergraduate program for 10 weeks where you can get 12 credit hours. You'll take 9 credit hours of Spanish. All levels of Spanish are welcome. You don't have to have any prior knowledge. They have classes from beginner to advanced. So 9 credit will be in Spanish, and the other credit hour will be an anthropological history of Cuba that you'll take with a Cuban professor, And there's a lot of trips you'll take. You go to the Presidential Palace, museums. You get this visit and study about downtown historical Havana.
Dr. Doug Heffington, director of MTSU's Global Studies program, which is the only such program in the Tennessee Board of Regents system, says Global Studies is a perfect fit in a university where study abroad opportunities are encouraged. Students in Global Studies learn languages, get good jobs in foreign countries, and they become engaged global citizens. As Heffington says, the world has become our campus.
This social media age, this multiculturalism which we're exposed to every day, is that all of a sudden it's like they really are very interested in the world out there. But they're not so interested in the world here, and by that I mean it's like they see that MTSU is broader than just MTSU.
You know, we're here to prepare young people for their life after college and to enter a very globalized workforce. So study abroad is an excellent opportunity to prepare them for that world.
Well, we're back with more of Out of the Blue, and I'm Bob Pondillo. Thanks for joining us. This is the program that takes us inside Middle Tennessee State, the blue and white, the Blue Raiders, Out of the Blue. Get it? It's all sort of connected. We have a guest today from the History Department, a fellow by the name of Dr. Fred Colvin, a professor who just recently retired in the History Department for 40 plus years.
Right.
And I'm happy you're joining us today. And Dr. Colvin is part of a project that's going on that's sort of directed by the History Department about a look back, sort of a remembrance or memoirs of MTSU, how we were back 100 years ago or so, since we're coming up on our 100th anniversary here in the September of 2011. So Dr. Colvin, I want to find out about the stuff that you've been looking into, which is about intercollegiate sports and what have you here at MTSU. And so let's do that. First of all, what's the origin of our blue-white, Blue Raiders kind of nomenclature?
When the school first began in September of 1911, there were no coaches, and obviously little attention was being paid to sports. But President Jones did very early in the first quarter, as I recall, appoint a committee of 2 faculty members and 1 student, Quentin Smith, who later became the 3rd president of the university. Yeah. And they were charged with developing colors to promote school spirit. What I find interesting is after deliberation, they came back with the choices of blue or royal blue and white. And the reasoning they gave reflects, I think, the economic orientation and nature of our somewhat simplistic beginnings, in that these colors were already very prevalent in the ordinary wardrobe of our students. Thus, they didn't have to go out and buy anything extra, or they were readily available in the stores in a small town like Murfreesboro.
Well, I didn't know that. So you just kind of go with the flow here on
well,
this one,
it was, I think it reflects the fact that we have very modest beginnings. And money then, as it is now, is a major consideration. Sure. The origin of our sports team's name is somewhat longer in the making. During the early years of our athletic programs, the teams traveled under such names as the Normalites, the Normalites,
the Normal College,
the teachers, the pedagogues, and you can imagine the frustration of sports writers and later sportscasters. It's pretty hard in an exciting moment to scream, "Go pedagogues!"
Yeah, sure.
So in the early 30s, 1934, the Daily News Journal sponsored a contest to name the school's teams and offered a $5 prize.
$5?
$5. Homer Pittard, in his work on the first 50 years, says that there were over 200 suggestions, and the football team was allowed to make the choice. And the choice they selected had been submitted by one of their own members, Charles Sarver. And he submitted the name Blue Raiders. And he explained his reasoning for that choice by saying that his favorite college team of the day was the Colgate Red Raiders. So he merely dropped red, substituted blue, and he got Blue Raiders, and that's the choice.
I would think that it would have something to do with the Civil War for some reason, you know, because of the raiders and the what have you.
Well, many assumed that.
Yeah.
And for many years, the official logo of this university that appeared on stationery and other sorts of things was a mounted man on horseback that amazingly looked like Nathan Bedford Forrest.
Right.
Now, when you get into that issue,
that's a whole
you have to look at the mentality of Southern white males in the first half of the 20th century and what they saw in their minds, what Forrest symbolized in so many ways.
Right, right.
That, and one of our mascots early on was a mounted rider. Dressed as an officer. So that was discontinued, and in fact, we dropped the use of that mounted figure during Dr. Ingram's tenure here.
Would then the flying horse, or whatever it is the horse, the blue horse,
right?
Lightning, I believe they call it. Is that sort of an iteration, an evolution, or something of?
Well, I think probably it simply represents what the public relations firm or whoever put it together.
Really?
I don't think it does that much, but it's still, you might interpret that as the use of a horse. This is horse country in many ways.
That's true.
That
too.
sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Kind of makes
but we
sense.
used a dog for a while and a costume student as mounted in a uniform, but not on a horse. So.
Really, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
We had a dog for a while.
Well, but I think
we
thought we were. You know, that was too much like UT.
Well, of course. That's right.
It wasn't a coonhound, but and I think we called him Old Blue.
Old Blue, of course. Mm-hmm. Yeah, great, amazing. Well, let's get to personalities now here at MTSU. The fellow I don't know about, but I do know because I've been to his stadium several times, the Johnny Red Floyd Stadium, or Floyd Stadium here at MTSU, where we do play our games. But he was a coach. Was he a coach here? Or
he was. Johnny Red Floyd was a member of the sports teams very early on and played under our first real coach, Coach Miles. Like many of our early athletes, with being a two-year school, many transferred up to Vanderbilt. And he had gone up to Vanderbilt and was playing ball there when the United States declared war on the Central Powers in 1917. Mm-hmm. Vanderbilt immediately discontinued its athletic program. MTSU did not for 1917, and so given the lack of normal eligibility rules and requirements we have today, he came back down here and led 17 fellow students to an undefeated season. And in fact, an unscored on season.
I didn't know that.
I think
unbelievable.
I think his team scored 201 points and the opposition scored 0. Now, we discontinued sports in 1918. Floyd kind of disappears. I guess he went back to Vanderbilt. But in the mid-1930s, after the tragic loss of Coach Falkenberry, our immediate successor coaches did not have much success, particularly in football. Right. And so he was brought back to coach the football team and immediately turned them around. The first year back, he again went undefeated. And the second year was defeated only by Vanderbilt. Huh. And
just a winning coach.
Yes.
Clearly a winning coach.
But he left because the president at that time insisted that he began to teach an academic course. All of our early coaches were members of the faculty teaching biology, Latin, history, those sorts of things.
Wow. Fascinating stuff, and there's just reams of names of people that I'd like to talk more about, but we're out of time, sadly. Maybe we'll have to talk again about this. And this information will be available as the history project continues from the history department.
That is the intention, yes.
And that's coming up in September of 2011, the 100th anniversary, the centennial celebration of MTSU. Thank you so much, Dr. Fred Colvin, professor in the Department of History, now retired, who tells us all about where we get our school colors and our other mascots and what have you. It was fascinating stuff. Thank you very much.
Pleasure to be here.
And we'll have more in a moment.